Brother Jay Hurt's extraordinary impact on SigEp began during his undergraduate years at North Carolina Epsilon at Davidson College. For those that know Jay, they know that he goes all in when he invests his time in an organization, a project, or a relationship. So it's no surprise that in 1987, he was elected to SigEp's national board as a student director. After graduation, he built an incredibly successful career in the energy industry. Jay stayed involved with his fraternity the entire time. He participated in the visionary meetings in Colorado in the late 80s and 90s, led by SigEp icon Frank Ruck, that eventually led to the Balanced Band Project, now the Balanced Band Program. And after serving on a number of AVCs in the big country of Texas, Texas Delta, Texas Kappa, Texas Upsilon, Jay went on to serve as a district governor for South Texas from 1996 to 2001. Already a Distinguished Alumnus recipient, in 2001, Jay was elected to the national board, becoming SigEp's first former student director to join the board as an alumnus. Only 2 years later, in 2003, Jay became a trustee of the Sigma Phi Epsilon Educational Foundation and served as president for the foundation from 2010 to 2013. He became a lifetime trustee just a few months ago at the 2015 Grand Chapter Conclave in Nashville. Jay was also a director of SigEp National Housing, serving on all 3 of our boards. One of Jay's greatest gifts to Sigma Phi Epsilon has been the Ruck Leadership Institute, which he co-founded in 1998 with past Grand President and Order of the Golden Heart recipient, John Hartman. Jay has come back to Virginia almost every year since its inception to facilitate. Because of his vision and drive to prepare our undergraduates for leadership roles in SigEp and beyond, more than 1,500 brothers have received training unparalleled in the fraternity world. One of those SigEps was me in 2002. That experience changed my life. Jay changed my life. Always the humble servant leader, you wouldn't know any of this about Jay unless one of his brothers told you.
Jay's contributions to the fraternity and professional success have made him a legend at his home chapter of NC Epsilon at Davidson College, and he continues to answer the call when his brothers are in need. During my own tenure as chapter president, the Davidson campus administration tried to prevent our chapter from hosting a Balanced Band scholarship, unsure of its role in our deferred recruitment process. Jay personally wrote a letter to the Dean of Students, explaining its purpose and value, and also coached me on making the pitch. Thanks to you, we were able to host our Balanced Band scholarship, the first step towards NC Epsilon's transition to the Balanced Band program. And just last year, Jay personally endowed the Frank Rader Memorial Wrestling Award in honor of a North Carolina Epsilon icon and Order of the Golden Heart recipient, Brother Frank Rader. Tonight, Jay, you stand alongside Frank in SigEp lore. Jay's decades of service to and impact on our fraternity have been truly exceptional. Longtime friend Ryan Brennan, who also served with Jay as a foundation trustee and co-Ruck facilitator, perhaps describes him best when he says, "Jay is the epitome of the servant leader. I've seen him guide our national fraternity, teach our young leaders through the Ruck Institute, build a chapter from scratch, and make a man a SigEp. These are all important, but Jay's biggest gift is his heart, bigger than Texas. There's no better friend and no better SigEp." We were also able to coax a few words out of John Hartman, wrote the past Grand President, working together to establish and expand the reach of the Ruck Leadership Institute were some of the most meaningful years of my life. Standing together last year to receive the NIC Silver Medal of Honor because of the program's success was a moment that I will cherish forever. Your kindness and generosity are simply inspiring. Thank you for making our fraternity so special for so many. Jay, it is because of the tireless service of men like you that our national board created the Exemplary Service Award, and in speaking with just some of the many men that you have impacted, it was clear that there was no one more deserving of this honor. Please join me in thanking Brother Arthur J. Hurd III for his many gifts to Sigma Phi Epsilon and recognize him as an inaugural recipient of SigEp's Exemplary Service Award.
I truly am honored to represent this award tonight, and truly grateful to Grand President Bennett, Grand Treasurer Bittman, CEO Brian Warren, for your efforts in making this happen. Truly grateful. You know, when I think about exemplary service as it relates to our fraternity, and then I think about myself, it doesn't seem to work. Because when I think about exemplary service, particularly as it relates to our fraternity, I think about that dedicated volunteer who year after year is in our chapter house, working with our undergraduates, helping to make sure that experience is safe and sound and productive for undergraduates for years to come. I think about the donor who may not have a connection with fraternity, but writes a check each and every year to the Educational Foundation. I think about the mentors across the country who give their time one-on-one to help an undergraduate. I think about our facilitators who give their time weekends away from their family to help work with our undergraduates at Ruck Leadership Institutes, at Carlson Leadership Academies. I think about the young alumnus who successfully makes the transition from being an undergraduate to beginning to mentor and volunteer as an alumnus, and who so fittingly serves as a role model for those undergraduates. I think about the wives of our alumni who so unselfishly give of their time when their husbands are gone. I think about our RDs, our Richmond staff, our professional staff, whose service is beyond. I think about the businessman, who when reviewing businessman or recruiter, who when reviewing resumes happens to see that the particular applicant is a SigEp and spends just a little more time on that particular resume. I think about the faculty members who interact with our undergraduates on campuses all across the country. These are examples, in my mind, of exemplary service to Sigma Phi Epsilon. And I'm honored to be able to represent them and to be one of them tonight. My message tonight is a personal one. I want to share with you, particularly my undergraduate brothers here tonight, the impact that Sigma Phi Epsilon has had on my life and the tremendous benefit that I've received from my involvement in Sigma Phi Epsilon. You know, it's kind of funny that I stand here today because in all honesty, I didn't want to be a SigEp. I wanted to be a KA. Only through a quirk of fate and a commitment that 3 young men on a freshman hall made that we would join the same fraternity at Davidson am I a SigEp. SigEp at Davidson was the only fraternity that gave all 3 of us a bid. You know, it's funny how things like that happen. Sometimes things in life that you think you don't want become the things that are most meaningful and powerful in your life. It may be that tough professor. It may be that coach that pushes you a bit too hard. It may be that girl at the party that you judge too quickly. It may be that parent that hovers too much, sometimes is around too much, that maybe even embarrasses you. It may be that recruit or that friend who doesn't make a good first impression. It may be the class you avoided taking or the setback in life that led you on a different path. It may even be that father that you worked with for 15 years and you thought you knew everything. Because gentlemen, in life, sometimes those things you think you don't want become the very things that are most meaningful and most powerful in your life. And so too is the fraternity. Most of us, I suspect, and on campuses across the country this is true, most of us probably didn't go to college thinking they were going to join a fraternity. yet all of us did. The things that you think you don't want can often become the most meaningful and powerful things in your life. So how does that happen? How do those things become meaningful and powerful? Well, they become by giving yourself first an opportunity and then seeking out those very things that you think you may not want. You know, we're in a political season now, and I tend to follow politics. And I was going to give a speech about the virtues of Donald Trump's presidency, but I realized it would be very, very short. So I passed. But in this political season, there's a lot of talk about equality of opportunity. For some, there's even talk about equality of outcome. Well, I'd like to talk for a moment about those two dynamics, opportunity and outcome, as it relates to our fraternity. Each year across this country, 6,000 bright students give themselves a tremendous opportunity by joining Sigma Phi Epsilon. The gentlemen in this room, our undergraduate brothers, have taken that opportunity even further. You have something in common here. You've committed yourself to engaging fully in the Sigma Phi Epsilon experience, in setting yourself on a path to becoming a better man, a better leader, and a better person. I compliment you for that. But it doesn't stop simply with opportunity. Outcomes, contrary to what some may say, are by no means certain, and there is no such thing as equality of outcome, and they're certainly not guaranteed. Outcomes are determined by how hard you work, what you study, your commitment to learning, who you surround yourself with, how well you prepare, the choices you make each and every day, and how you respond and adapt to failure. So, leveraging opportunity and maximizing outcomes helps determine how meaningful and powerful those things in your life become. You know, as I think about the SigEp experience, Brian Warren is fond of talking about, and he's absolutely right, that 90% of a student's time on campus today is spent outside of the classroom. And he positions that as a rationale, tremendous rationale, for the very existence and benefit of Sigma Phi Epsilon. My brothers, I would tell you that 90% of the time that you're a member in Sigma Phi Epsilon in your life will be spent as an alumnus. You're in the heart of your undergraduate experience now, and it is so dynamic and so intense now, it's hard for you to imagine an experience that could be any more impactful than what you're experiencing today. My brothers, I will tell you, because I've lived it firsthand, that your experience in Sigma Phi Epsilon and your commitment to a lifetime experience with Sigma Phi Epsilon can be as impactful, if not more impactful. I know because it was the case for me. Through Sigma Phi Epsilon, I've met a number of incredible individuals. There are two people that changed the course of my life in SigEp in interesting ways. One in sort of a mercenary way, and I'll tell you a quick story. But there was a point in my life when I left a successful career at Procter & Gamble and chartered off on my own to build a business. It was an entrepreneurial urge that I had, and I wanted to pursue it. I had the pleasure and honor of meeting an alumnus who sat down with me at a conclave in Dallas in 1993. His name was Kurt Carlson. Kurt was a consummate entrepreneur, one of the world's best. He was tremendously successful. And I shared with him my concerns, most of which were financial at that time, about the risk that I was taking, starting my own business and building my own business. And I'll never forget the simple words of advice that he gave me. With this kind of smile, he said, "Jay, I'll tell you, true wealth is built through equity and not through salary." And then he winked and said, "And you know what? I'll match my balance sheet against anyone's W-2 any day of the week." This was a tremendously successful man who in that moment validated the choice that I had made and gave me the confidence to pursue a dream that I had and one that he was living. On the opposite end, I had a tremendous opportunity to get to know and love Frank Ruck. Frank signed my membership card when he was Grand President. I never thought I'd have an opportunity to meet him personally, much less get to know and love him. But Frank, in only his way, in only his humble servant leader way, made a comment once that stuck with me. He said, in life, all I ask is that you be useful. Simply be useful. So if you think about the bookends of my experience, professionally and personally, they came from members in Sigma Phi Epsilon. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. There was a point not too long ago where I lost Sigma Phi Epsilon in my life. And in those dark times, I sat back and assessed the true impact that SigEp had on me. And it was then that I realized that my best friends to this day, almost all of my SigEp friends, I met since I graduated from college. Gentlemen, 90% of your life as a member in Sigma Phi Epsilon will be spent as an alumnus. Take full advantage of that. I also recognized that as much as I'd learned, there was so much more that I could learn from service from Sigma Phi Epsilon. And as much as I may have been able to help, Sigma Phi Epsilon gave me a tremendous opportunity to be even more helpful. As Frank would say, even more useful. And so for those reasons, I just can't share with you enough the impact that Sigma Phi Epsilon has had in my life. And I can't tell you how thankful I am that those two friends on my freshman hall didn't get into KA. In closing, I just want to say, remember to seek out those things you think you don't want, because often they become the most meaningful and powerful things you have in your life. In doing so, maximize the outcomes and the opportunities in your life. And most importantly, live your lifelong commitment to Sigma Phi Epsilon in service to others. Thank you very much.